What's happening, people? I hope you're well. So, the opinion you should follow should always be your own. Please be responsible when competing in the markets and see this as the opinion of a complete stranger online. So, Daniel Dubois suffers his second defeat to Oleksandr USYK. USYK becoming the two-time undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. You know, this fight really highlights the potency of styles makes fights. Styles make fights, they really do. Because Daniel Dubois demolished Anthony Joshua in 5. And then he goes and gets demolished himself in 5 by USYK. But isn't this the USYK that went 12 with Anthony Joshua twice? Arguably, USYK now is worse. In fact, I would definitely argue that USYK now is worse than when he fought Anthony Joshua. Yet he went and demolished Daniel Dubois in 5 rounds. Dubois demolished Joshua in 5 rounds. So, styles make fights, people. The reason this is happening is because Daniel Dubois needs rhythm and fluency. Daniel Dubois is many things, but he is not a thinking fighter. He's got solid fundamentals, but that's been drilled into him. He's been boxing for how long? You know, he's been boxing for how long? So he has those solid fundamentals. You know, he's got a decent jab, double jab, he feints, he punches off the bounce. So he's not, you know, he's got boxing fundamentals. But he is not a thinking fighter. And he's not a fighter that can fight without fluency. He relies on fluency. And so when you've got an orthodox versus a southpaw, often the lead hands are clashing. You're not able to get your jab off. And it is basically the epitome of lack of fluency. And you could see it against Jarrell Miller. Daniel Dubois was able to put his punches together. Against Filip Hrgović, Daniel Dubois was able to put his punches together. Against Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois was able to get his punches, put his punches together. Are you noticing a pattern here? All of those fighters were orthodox fighters. Did you notice that when Daniel Dubois fought Kevin Lerena, a lower level southpaw, he was on the floor multiple times? He really struggled to get to grips with Lerena. So, you know, I think that Daniel Dubois, he needs the ability to establish fluidity. And he also needs on top of it, he doesn't like it when, you see, Daniel Dubois, a lot of it is mental. If he's getting tagged, but he's getting his own shots off, he's a lot better. Even when he's under the cosh, even when he's under pressure. But if he's getting tagged and he's not getting his own shots off, mentally, he starts to crumble. That's better. I prefer drinking the left, phone on the right. I think that works better. Took me 5 minutes to work that out, but there you go. But yeah, Daniel Dubois fares a lot better when he's able to hit you, even if he's getting hit himself. But if he's getting hit himself and he's not able to get you cleanly and regularly, he really struggles mentally. And that happened in the first USYK fight, and it happened in this fight to a lesser extent. Daniel Dubois was more aggressive in this second fight. But the thing is, Oleksandr Usyk, being the southpaw, is so used to winning the lead hand battle and it's very often the case when a southpaw and an orthodox fighter come together, because the southpaw is rarer than the orthodox. So the southpaw is going to be fighting and sparring orthodox fighters regularly, but the orthodox fighter is not often coming up against a southpaw fighter. So often the southpaw fighter is winning the lead hand battle, and as soon as the first bell went, Daniel Dubois walked into a southpaw jab. So Oleksandr Usyk came up against an orthodox fighter with not the most complicated style, and someone he knew he could break down mentally. He'd seen him quit. You're coming up against a fighter who you made quit. So of course, you know, Oleksandr Usyk had that extra spring in his step, that extra bit more aggression, that extra bit of, I made you quit before, I'm going to hit you, and I'm going to make you go back to that place that I took you to before. I'm going to remind you, you know, I made you quit before, and I'm going to remind you of that place that I took you to before. And he did that. He did that in the second round when he had Daniel Dubois on shaky legs. Daniel Dubois has been hit harder than when he was hit against Oleksandr Usyk, but it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing. Anthony Joshua hit him with a right hand that was harder, most likely. I'm being hit by all these guys, thank God, but you know, the shot that Joshua caught him with in the fifth looked harder than the shots that Oleksandr Usyk was catching him with. But it's a mental thing. You know, the first knockdown, Daniel Dubois looked like he almost ran to the floor, half like off balance and half sort of crumbling mentally and collapsing to the floor. The second knockdown was full on legit, like his legs went and he went down, but the first one almost looked like he ran and he was pushed to the force of the punch and mentally crumbling. So in this fight here, what you have is styles make fights. Oleksandr Usyk's style is all wrong for Dubois, because Dubois cannot put his punches together against an elite southpaw. And Oleksandr Usyk had already made him quit mentally in the first fight. Usyk knew it and Dubois knew it. And so this was a stylistic nightmare for Daniel Dubois. And that's why what unfolded. The only reason I was skeptical to just go full in on Usyk winning this fight was because Usyk's age. You never know when Father Time's going to catch up with you. You know, it can happen overnight. You can be looking elite. Once you get to that sort of 34, 35 stage, you can be looking almost as good as you were in your late 20s athletically. And then by the time you have your next fight a year later, you look completely different and your athleticism and physical attributes have just decreased rapidly. That can happen. And there's no telling when it's going to happen. It's a natural occurrence. I mean, when you're living day-to-day life in the office, you know, you're probably not going to notice it. But when you're competing in elite sports, you're going to notice it. The other reason that I want to add that I think that Dubois' style and the whole matchup really doesn't favour Daniel Dubois, and the reason that Fury and Joshua were able to go the distance with Usyk, is because Daniel Dubois is not quite as tall as Joshua or Fury. Joshua about 6'5", 6'6", and Fury about 6'7". That gives them enough of a height advantage. They're still getting caught with shots by Usyk, but when Usyk's having to punch up, it takes a little bit of the sting out of the shots. Whereas Daniel Dubois and Usyk, they look like an inch or two apart. And so the shots that USYK's throwing don't lose the power because he's not punching up as much. So that's another reason that I think that Joshua and Fury were able to go the distance, whereas Dubois was not. So as gamblers, you know, the only real sensible bet to make on this fight was USYK to win the fight outright, hedging the play with Dubois by knockout, in my opinion, because Dubois was never going to win a points decision most likely against USYK unless he won the fight scoring multiple knockdowns. Whereas USYK had two ways of winning this fight. He could have won it on points and he could have won it by stoppage. So you just play it safe and place a bet for USYK to win the fight outright. But, you know, in summary, concluding this fight, Oleksandr Usyk won this fight because he'd already made Daniel Dubois quit before. And so that gave him a mental edge. Daniel Dubois knew that as well, and that gave him a mental disadvantage. Daniel Dubois' inability to get to grips with the southpaw style, he doesn't have the boxing brain to compensate for Usyk's southpaw advantage. And also, I think Daniel Dubois' lack of height. You know, he's a tall man, but he's not Joshua or Fury's height. And I think that made it easier for Oleksandr Usyk to find Daniel Dubois' head. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. And what do you think Usyk should do now? Because I'm telling you, styles make fights. That being the theme of this video. In my opinion, if Usyk continues, he loses. In my opinion, if Usyk continues, he loses. Even possibly in his next fight. If he was to go and fight Ajit Kabayel, Joseph Parker, who else is there? Zhili Zhang, F.A. Jagba. If he was to fight all these guys, I reckon he loses to at least one of them. Because don't underestimate the old adage in boxing that styles make fights. You know, it could be something like Dubois beats Hrgovic, Usyk beats Dubois, but Hrgovic for some reason beats Usyk. That can happen. We've seen it before. Anyway, in my opinion, Usyk undefeated, undisputed 2 times. There's nothing left to do. Don't go to the well too many times, as I said in my last video. Anyway, let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video. If you appreciate my work and want to leave a donation, there's a link for that in the description. With that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.
For mortgage advice tailored towards your individual needs, contact PGB Mortgages today. Let them guide you through your home buying journey. Contact details are in the description.